So it is actually, he was actually Leonardo of Pisa. So in 1202, he wrote a tract on arithmetic, which is titled Liber Abaci. It is actually a tract about abacus. And he writes like this: my father was a public scribe of Bagia, where he worked for his country in customs, defending the interests of Pisan merchants. So Pisa is a place in Italy. So Pisan merchants means merchants of Pisa. He made me to learn how to use abacus when I was still a child, because he saw how I could benefit from that in the later life. In this way, I learned the art of counting using the 9 Indian figures. And he actually writes them 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then he says that is why with the 9 numerals and with this sign 0 called Zephyrium in Arab, one writes all the number one wishes. Again, John of Sevilla. So in 1150, and he again writes that thing. So he actually says the Indians ingenuously enclose this infinite multiplicity within certain rules. That means he is aware of the decimal place value system. That means the numbers can be increased, you can write big numbers and so on, so that infinity could be scientifically defined. In fact, he meant that infinity means that big numbers. These strict rules enabled them to pin down the subtle constant. Well, again, there are other references like Robert of Chester in 1143, Bishop of Taldeo. And so again, I will just read out the names. The Book of Algorithmy of Indian Figures. Again, a book in 1130, Algorithmy of Indian Figures. A monk named Vigila in 976. And again, he says, the same applies to arithmetic figures. It should be noted that Indians have an extremely subtle intelligence, and when it comes to arithmetic, geometry, and other such advanced disciplines, other ideas must make way for theirs. The best proof of this is the 9 figures with which they represent each number, no matter how high. So then we go back to Arabic sources. So I just mentioned that there is a misnomer that we call them to be Arabic numerals, but Arabs themselves always mention or refer them to as Indian figures. So you can see, again, I will go in the reverse chronological order. There is a book called Khulasat al-Hisab, which is dated 1600 AD, and it says it was actually the Indians who invented 9 characters. Then we have Abul Hasan al-Kalasadi, and he again refers to Indians. There is another one text in 1390. So it says Arabs first learned about science from the Indians along with their figures and methods of calculation in CE 776. So probably he refers to the year of attack of Arabs on that Sindh area. But he mentions very clearly that the science and the mathematics they learned from Indians. There are other books also, which is Talkis fi Mal al-Hisab, which is actually, we can say, a brief guide to mathematical operations, which is dated around 1300 AD, and it refers to again Indian origin of figures and counting techniques. Sorry. Another book in 1230, it refers to, again it says Hisab al-Hindi, which means Indian arithmetic. A Persian encyclopedist is there, and he was dated from 1149 to 1206. He wrote a book which is again, it contains a chapter Hisab al-Hindi, that is Indian calculations. There is another mathematician. He wrote a book called Al-Bahir fi Ilm al-Hisab, which is the translated to the title, the Lucid Book of Arithmetic, which again makes a direct reference to the Indian origin of figures and methods of calculation. So similarly, there are many other books. I will quickly move to the next one. So I think everybody is familiar with the name of a person named Al-Biruni, who actually during the Sultanate rule, that time he actually visited India. That means at that time when this Mahmud of Ghazni used to attack India, and there used to be some people coming along with that. So his time is from 973 to 1048 AD, and he lived in India for almost 30 years, and he wrote a number of works. And one of the books he wrote is called Book of Figures, and he refers to arithmetic and counting using Sindh and Indian figures. And one of the most important works about India to be written at that time, it is called Kitab fi Tahik Aima Lil Hind. And he mentions the diversity of the graphical forms of the figures used in India. So again, I will come back to this because if you see the Indian subcontinent, so we have different regions. For example, you have Kashmir, you have Punjab, you have Assam, you have Bengal, you have Tamil Nadu. So it is unlikely that every place they use the same symbols. So since he traveled across, he found that different graphical forms were used. So therefore, all of them, he then mentions that it is obvious that they originated in India. Otherwise, in different regions, they would not have used different things. If it was coming from Europe or if it was coming from China, then the same symbols would have been used across India. So he says that the Indians use these numerical signs in their arithmetic. I have written a tract which shows in as much detail as possible how much more advanced the Indians are than we are in this field. Then, of course, again, there are many other references. So I will just skip this to save time. And now let us go to pre-Islamic Syria. So a Syrian bishop by name Severus Sabok, he studied philosophy, mathematics, and astronomy at monastery of Kandar, which is at the banks of Euphrates, the river Euphrates. The place was exposed to a wealth of knowledge, being at the confluence of Greek, Mesopotamian, and Indians learning traditions. And he wrote a manuscript. In that he wrote, the Hindus who are not even Syrians have made subtle discoveries in the field of astronomy, which are even more ingenious than those of Greeks and Babylonians, as for their skillful methods of calculation and their computing, which belies description. They use 9 figures. If those who think they are sole pioneers of science simply because they speak Greek had known of these innovations, they would have realized that there are those others who speak different languages who are also knowledgeable. So Sebok's evidence conclusively proves that the Indian counting system was known and esteemed outside India by the middle of the 7th century. And it is interesting to find that this Sebok's reference is actually quoted in Jawaharlal Nehru's discovery of India also. I was just going through that, and he has also quoted that the Indian numeral system is original to India, and he has actually quoted Sebok's quotation. So now we come to the proof of the event. So we find out the various kind of things. I will skip this very quickly and let us come to the symbols that were available. So to prove that all these discoveries took place in India, irrespective of any other outside influence, it is most important to note that the Indian numerical notation was available in entire Indian region. So by entire Indian region, as I mentioned, we mentioned Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Assam to Sindh. In every place, you had different notations. So it proves that they were all developed indigenously. Otherwise, they would not have different symbols. So I will start from Nagari figures. These Nagari figures are prevalent in Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Himachal Pradesh, Haryana, Delhi, etc. You can see different writing styles for number 1, for the number 2, for the number 3, for the number 4, for the number 5. And you can see here that the number 5 is most surprising because it looks like the current current European tradition that we write 4. It is actually 5 there. Similarly, you can see the different styles for 6, 7, 8. So I have written so many styles here because so many of variations are prevalent. For 9, and those who had their studies in vernacular language in your childhood, I think you can appreciate most of these symbols. Let us go to next one. So you can see Marathi figures. So if there is a participant in this conference from Maharashtra and who has his study in Marathi in his school, probably you can appreciate that also. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is again different here. 4 is different. Then you can see 6, 7, 8, 9. And so this is in the areas of Kokar, Daman, Diu, north of Gujarat, and so on. Then you have Punjabi figures. So again, by Punjabi, we mean some area of Punjab. There are other areas of Punjab where you had different scripts. So you can, these are known as, these are referred to as Punjabi figures. These are used in certain areas of which are bordering Pakistan. That is the river valleys of Indus, Chenab, Jhelum, etc. And also in some parts of Himachal Pradesh and Haryana. Then of course you have Sindhi figures. Those who are knowing the Sindhi businessman, if you have seen that they keep some bookkeeping in the shops, if you have gone, and if you see these numbers will be written below the certain divine figures they will keep there, and you may note that these figures are written if you can see carefully. So then again, this is Gurumukhi figures, which is again similar to the Punjabi figures. You have Gujarati figures, Kaithi figures. So Kaithi, of course, I think many of you appreciate that it is a language, or you can say script, used by people who write what you call ledger, that is Bahi Khata. And many of them they use, so it is used in certain parts of Bihar, Gujarat, Eastern UP, and so on. Then you have Bengali figures. And you can see that there is a marked deviation from the other scripts. There is a somewhat different from other figures used in India. But again, there are a lot of variations, and the numbers 1 to 9 and 0, they are there. You have Maithili figures, Udiya figures, Takari figures, which is used some parts of Kashmir and Dogri. Again, a lot of part of the northern India, they use something called Sharda figures. So Sharda script was there. So 1, you can see these symbols are quite different, 2, 3, 4. And you can appreciate that actually the northern part, like the Kashmir and all, their script and the speaking style is quite different from other parts of the country. So that shows in the script, the symbols for the numerals also. So I'll just very quickly go through this thing. So Nepali you can see, and then again you can see Tibet. So Tibet, of course, I am mentioning because earlier the Tibet was closer to Indian thing compared to now. Of course, it's part of China because China has occupied it, but they are closer in the spirit to Indian continent. Then you have Tamil, and of course you can note here one important part, that 0 was missing in the Tamil one. So that also supports some hypothesis that Tamil script may be more ancient than the Sanskrit. So, but again, it shows that even in the Tamil tradition, the numbers were there. Then you have Malayalam. So Tamil and Malayalam both do not have the symbol for 0. But if you look at other traditions there, like Telugu and then Kannada, they had 0 there. And their writing style is quite different. And their other available symbols are Sinhalese, Burmese, Khmer, Balinese, Javanese figures, which means that probably with the travel of the Indian merchants, etc., to eastern part or to the southeast part of Asia, these symbols would have traveled there, and also the local would have developed this one. So there is no doubt, again, I will just try to repeat here, that there is no doubt about their common origin. So probably there was something original, so which says that you had Brahmi as the mother of all Indian writings. So it is clear from extensive paleographical research that they all derive directly or indirectly from the same source. And the oldest known writings of the Indian subcontinent appeared on the stamps and the plaques of the Indus Valley civilization. However, the writings have not been deciphered, so there is a lot of gap between them and the next known writings which are available from the time of Ashoka, whose empire actually extended from Afghanistan to Bengal and from Nepal to Deccan. So his inscriptions are mainly made here, that is the rocks and the columns where the diverse writing styles have been used, and Brahmi has been used in most of his edicts. So it means that the Brahmi script must have been widely used at that point of time. And of course, I don't have to read this history here. I will go immediately to the next part. In maybe next 5 minutes, I will tell that before the advent of the numeral notation, how in the writings we found that in Sanskrit we had the unique names for each of the numbers. So how nicely they represented. So I will very quickly come to that. I think I am exhausting my time, so I will just very quickly go to that. Yeah. So we come to here, the Sanskrit part here. What is surprising that for each number, there were several synonyms. Like for one, they use the Eka, Pitamaha, Adi, Tanu, Chiti, Abja, Indu, Soma, and so on. For the number 2, it was Dvi. So Dvi is the common name for 2. Then Ashwin, Yama, Yamal, Yugal, Netra, Bahu, Gulfan, Paksha, and so on. For 3, the ordinary symbol is 3, that is Trinetra, Triguna, Triloka. So the synonyms which are used in the Sanskrit shlokas, they are Guna, Loka, Kala, Agni, Haranetra, etc. For 4, you had Disha, Sindhu, Yuga, Irya, Harivahana, Brahmasya, and so on. For 5, you had Panchbana, Indriya, Rudrasya, that is the 5 faces of Shiva, Panchabhuta, Panchmahayagna, and so on. And so on. So I will not read each of them. Let us move to the next one. So similarly for 7, 8, 9, and for 0, Shunya, Bindu, Kha, Gagan, Akasha, Ambar, Vyom. So this is not an exhaustive list. There were many other symbols which are taken from nature, human morphology, animals, plants, everyday life, legends, traditions, religions, attributes of the divinities, for example, Vedic, Brahmin, Hindu, Jain, or Buddhist pantheons, and diverse social conventions. So I'll maybe read only 1 or 2 examples here. So this is from Surya Siddhanta, Chandrochaya Agnis Shunya. So I'll now do the Sandhi Vicheda here and how it is translated. So you look at it. So if I do the Sandhi Vinyasa here, I will find so we start from here, Agni, that is representing 3. Then Shunya is representing 0. Then we have Ashwin that represents 2. Then we have Vasu, which represents 8. Sarpa is again 8. Again, another interesting thing you see that the number 8 is repeated, but they are using 2 different names here. So from here also it is clear that the way of representing the numbers was very advanced by that time. So Surya Siddhanta is dated 5th century AD, but even at that point of time, Arnav that is 4, ocean. So if you put them in the order, so the numbers are written in the exactly the same order in which they are represented in the shloka, and it becomes then fire is 3, wired is 0, then and so on. So 302884. Now you apply the place value system. So 3 into 10 to the power 0 plus 0 into 10 to the power 1 plus 2 into 10 square plus 8 into 10 cube plus 8 into 10 to the power 4 plus 4 into 10 to the power 5, and the number becomes 4,88,203. So this is the number which they wanted to represent in Surya Siddhanta. Similarly, let us look at the second numerical expression, which is Vasu, then Agni, then you have Yama, then you have Ashwin, then you have Shiki, then you have Dasra. So if you put them again in the same order, 8, 3, 2, 2, 3, 2, 8, then the number is 8 into 10 to the power 0 plus 3 into 10 plus 2 into 10 square plus 2 into 10 cube and so on. The numbers becomes 2,32,238. So this method of expressing numbers, it clearly shows a perfect understanding of 0 and the place value system using 10 as a base. And it is a type of symbolic representation subject to many variations. Yet the numerical symbols were always perfectly comprehensible to the Indian astronomers. Even if the value of certain words could vary according to the author, region, or the time when they were written, the context always confirmed the intended numerical value. And then there are dates on the Sanskrit inscriptions from the Southeast Asia and so on. So I'll just give maybe 1 or 2 examples here. So this is from Java, that is in the Southeast Asia, which is a part of Indonesia now. So there is a inscription there. It is Shrutindriya Swara. So if you do the Sandhi Vicheda here, it becomes Shruti, that is 4, then it is Indriya, that is 5, and then Rasar, that is senses, that is 6. So if you convert it into the number here, in the order, it becomes 4, then that is 4 into 10 to the power 0 plus 5 into 10 to the power 1 plus 6 into 10 square, it becomes 654. So it is Shaka era. So if you add 78 to convert it into the Christian era, it becomes 732. So similarly, there are older inscriptions from Champa. Then there is another one from which is referring to 598 Christian era. Then another one which is there. So it means that by that time, the Indian numerical system had traveled to the far east, because these are the places where it was there. I will just spend maybe 2 minutes on another thing, which is regarding the usage of big numbers. So I'll just go very quickly to that. Yeah. There is a text called Lok Vibhaga, which is a work on Jain cosmology, which constitutes one of the oldest known use of the word symbols. And from here, if you see, they have used the numbers like, I can just read it, 1, 4, 2, 3, 6, 7, 1, 3. Such a huge number has been used there. And another one is, again, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There is a 11-digit number which is there. And Loka Vibhaga is dated to, I'll tell you, it is dated to 25th August 458 Christian era. So at that point of time, such huge numbers were used and they were represented. They were properly represented. So I think I have taken more time. I would like to end my talk at this point of time by saying that the modern mathematical, scientific, and technological development would not have taken place if Indians had not developed the numeral system and the place value system. So I will just say that one sentence, that the modern development of science and technology owes its utmost gratitude to the Indian mathematicians who actually came up with the development of the numeral system and the decimal and place value system. So with this, once again, I am also associated with the Center for the Indian Knowledge System. As Professor Sen mentioned, that we welcome you all to sometime visit and interact with uh, persons at IIT Kharagpur for further development of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an invigorating session and deep and stimulating insight on the history of numerals and decimal place value system. Now we have with us our third guest of honor, Professor Sampadanand Mishra, Professor, Rastram School of Public Leadership, Rishihud University, Sonipat, Haryana, who is going to